I want to give you guys a progression that we can utilize for a couple different things. One being, if you guys have been following me for a while, you know I'm a big advocate of just simplification of the path that your throwing hand takes, right? So arm action, arm path, whatever you want to call it. We're just trying to minimize essentially the checkpoints in which it has to get to maximize the ability to be consistent, right? With a lot of different things, right? So if we have a path that's quite long, no matter how good our motor control patterns is, it's still going to give us more opportunity to, being consistent, having a certain breakdown. Yeah, anyways, I don't have to go into that. The progression that I'm going to talk about is I have a net. It's one of those rebounder nets by Rugged Sports. On my website, I have a full page of product discounts. You can just go to my website, therobbyrowshow.com, type in the search bar discounts, and it'll come up. I can get you a discount on that as well. So I have a rebounder net here, and I'm just going to do a simple progression. Take this from like my catchers or my shortstop, second base, middle infielder guys, and I'm wearing a middle infielder's glove, so sorry about it. So I'm going to keep my hands like this, and then as soon as the ball comes back, hopefully in this general direction, I'm going to take it, and I'm just going to funnel my hands straight back, and then I'm going to throw, okay? So you're going to see a couple throws. And it's a super simplistic drill. All we're trying to do is instill the motor control patterns of that arm going from catch to funnel to retraction, separation, and throw, right? So you'll see that my feet are shoulder width apart. My feet are pretty much in cement. So we take the legs out of the equation, and now we're just upper body and arm. Okay, so this is what it's gonna look like. You can do this with a throwing partner. Obviously, you don't just have to do it with a net. So hopefully it goes into my chest. Obviously it doesn't first one. So here we go. I'll scoot over, all right. So boom here, boom here, boom here, boom here. The net's moving. Again, so we're just catching and we're just trying to, there it was. Essentially we're just trying to get rid of it, right? So I think the quicker, there's a dead spot. The quicker that we can essentially be, right? I don't want you to rush. Okay, don't rush with this type of drill progression because we're trying to really ingrain good motor control patterns. If you rush, you're gonna get all out of whack and you're gonna have movement and compensations and all over the place. So don't rush, but kind of think about if you can essentially get it to the point where you're going boom, right into it and throwing, that's gonna allow you to be quicker with everything going forward as well, right? So if we can be quicker, my theory essentially is the quicker you can be, the more acceleration you can get. So if you do have a net, you saw me do it a couple times, there's also a progression you can do with just your throwing hand. Just make sure that the ball's not coming in too hot because it's your throwing hand, right? You got to protect that. So if it's not coming in too hot, you can just do bare hand. That's pretty good feedback as well from just catch out front. And then essentially you're just pulling that lawnmower, right? You're pulling that lawnmower, getting back into that full retraction and then throwing, okay? The net keeps shifting. So there it was, right? So you create this path, this funnel essentially of just boom, boom. So what I see a lot of times with guys is, whatever the reason may be, they're getting into patterns of like kind of pushing that arm through. And all I'm trying to give, if it's a client or if someone's I'm working with, just trying to give them some sort of sensory input that allows them to feel a pulling sensation, right? So if we can get into like this kind of this reaction thing, gosh, there was a really smart thing I was about to say and I totally, cause and reaction, right? So if we can get into the point of pulling that arm back, then we can almost get into the pattern of pulling the arm through, right? So as I mentioned, a lot of breakdowns I'm seeing, especially from youth guys or guys that really try to command the baseball, is they'll get into this kind of pushy arm action here, and then they'll get into a pattern of early launch, right? So not fully maximizing extension. So we're trying to break this down and segment this, obviously. So I just kind of came up with, this could be a really good, I know it's for middle infielders, catchers most likely, but the pattern of pulling arm through, throwing, pulling arm through, pulling back and pulling forward, pulling back and pulling forward. Again, as you can see, you can increase the intensity, right? So you can go boom, 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 boom. So again, it's not one of those things that you're gonna do 10 reps of it and you'll be like, oh, I got it. Like, these are motor control patterns, dude. Like, these just don't get developed overnight. So that's why I say, like, the intentionality, being intentional with any progression that you're doing is extremely important, because your body's gonna get that sensory input. It's gonna get that input of like, oh, what are we doing? This is kind of new. And then if you only do 20, 40 reps one day, the next day it's essentially gone. So you just got to keep hammering that so your body can get that recognition. And then the last component is make sure, because a lot of times we see guys that struggle with this kind of early launch, right, and pushing that arm through. They're guys that also struggle with like arm deceleration, right? So if you're trying to command the baseball and you're putting so much like stress and emphasis on commanding the baseball, you not only get this pushy arm action, early launch, lack of extension, but you get very suboptimal arm deceleration patterns. So another thing that you need to be mindful of that I would say comes after that sensation of pulling that arm back would be the arm deceleration. And that's why it's kind of tough to do it with a net like I am, bare hand, right? Because as you throw, it's coming right back. So you want to be quick. Don't cut yourself off. Again, these are motor control patterns that we're ingraining, okay? So get to a point, hopefully you have a partner so you can have, you know, variance of time in between. So get to the point where you throw, and then you're finishing that throw, right? Finishing and allowing that arm to decelerate. So I apologize in the beginning if I was doing it bad, as in bad deceleration patterns, but again, the body will only accelerate as fast as it can decelerate. Same goes for the arm, man. Like, we're constantly in survival mode, we're constantly in protection mode. So if our body understands that our arm is not decelerating efficiently, then it's not going to allow us to accelerate to the maximum potential. So guys that, as I mentioned, struggle with arm deceleration patterns is they throw it and then they're so cautious of where it's going that they just cut their arm off here. And my arm's preset bent. Sorry about it, but that's what we want to do. Is when we want to throw it, we go into early pronation, right? Take emphasis off the bicep, and then we get that little arm bend to allow the arm more time to decelerate. So if we allow the arm more time to decelerate, the brain goes, hey, we're pretty good at deceleration. Now we can bump up the acceleration. What's that? Power output, right? So huge component. Trying to focus on two different things at once is tough, I know, but just make sure that we're ingraining those patterns. And like I said, the rebounder is good if you don't have anyone, but if you have the option of doing this particular drill with somebody, it's obviously a lot better. So that's a very simple kind of progression. We're just trying to get this sensation of catch, funnel, pull the arm, and then pull the arm through into release, okay, while ingraining good patterns of arm deceleration. All right, thanks guys.